Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 119. I'm your host, Sam Woo, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. Tonight's podcast is titled Fitzs Big Day, Dougie and Bernier Now Devils. We got a big podcast for you. We have a special guest, Josh Tessler of Smaht Scouting, talking a little bit of the prospects of the draft. But now, Nick, big day in Devils Land. Big day in Devils Land. We've been on the air pretty much all day long, but we should really recap the day that Fitzy made his mark in the Garden State.
Yeah, I mean, Sam, it was stressful. It was I actually had to. I mean, I know this is unprofessional, but I got to adjust the camera. It was so stressful for about 6 hours there. I think it was Darren Drager who called it a grind. This negotiation was a grind, and they ended up just giving him $9 million a year. Like, was that really the line? Like, I don't know why they didn't just give it to him, but he's here. He's here,
Yeah.
and he's beautiful. And honestly, I mean, look at this defense, Sam. Look at our defense. We have Dougie Hamilton, PK Subban, and Damon Severson on the right, and then on the left. We got Ty Smith. We got Ryan Graves. We got Jonas Siegenthaler. Oh, my. Be still my heart, Tom Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I'm
And
still
shipping
pumped.
to-
You know what? And for this podcast,
Yep.
I got a little homemade apple pie cider because of all the apples that are coming to New Jersey via Dougie Hamilton. Look at it. Look at the cider. Look at it.
Oh,
Look at it. Look at the apples. Look at the apples. The apples are coming. The apples are coming. We're getting power play apples. Sam, we got Ryan Graves to help us with the penalty kill, which was garbage last year. We got Dougie Hamilton to help us with the power play, which was garbage last year. And they're going to help so much on special teams, which lost us half of our games last year. I am floored. I'm sad that it came down to trading Will Butcher and having to add a fifth-round pick just to get him off our roster. That one made me a little upset, but it's not going to damper my day because Dougie is coming. There's so much to talk about, Sam. So much.
Oh, there's a lot.
We can talk about the Butcher.
There's a lot.
We can talk about.
it.
Do you give him 19, or are you going to retire that one day for Zajac?
Nah. You don't retire for Zajac. I mean, not saying he's deserving or anything, but right now, Dougie Hamilton is in New Jersey. We got confused by one Flyers reporter that Zach Parise was in New Jersey, but turned out he wasn't.
Wait, let me just say something. Let me say something before because he hasn't signed with New York, has he?
You know what? Let's ask Facebook Live and YouTube Live and Twitch.
The only reason I bring
Twitter
it up
Live
is your old pal Eklund tied him to New Jersey too. He tied him. He said it's down to New York and New Jersey, to the Islanders in New Jersey.
But you know this guy can't make up his mind right away, so it doesn't surprise me, right?
Give it 3 days. We'll know in 3 days where Zach Parise's going.
Yeah, I mean, will lightning strike twice and he screws Lou over again, and then he comes back to the Garden State? Oh, my goodness, all the humanity. I mean, he'll take forever.
I have to imagine that something else is in the works. There's a lot of possibilities. There's the Tarasenko situation. Brandon Saad is out there as a free agent. There's obviously the Parise thing, but the Parise thing I don't think is going to break the bank either way. You're not giving Parise $5 million a year. No. So Parise is out there. Is Thomas Tatar still out there? I believe Thomas Tatar is still out there. There are forwards that are still available. It really makes sense for the Devils. Pius Suter, somebody I like, he's not going to break the bank, though. They have this cap space for a reason, right? You don't trade Will Butcher for nothing. You don't add a fifth-round pick to get rid of Will Butcher, who still is he's a zero player, but he's not a negative. He just can't skate well, and that doesn't work with Lindy Ruff's system. So fine. He's owed a lot of money compared to what his cap hit is. I think his cap hit's like 3.2 or 3.3, and he's owed $4.1 million. But again, Joshua Harris is doing okay. He can pay it. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
But they have to be moving. They're still. I don't want to. They're not under the cap. They're not under the floor, right? They're still like $20 million from the cap floor or the cap ceiling. Let me check.
I haven't checked. Yes. So you go to capfriendly.com and find out, because those people, they know what they're talking about. I got
to get them on the podcast one day, but
yeah. No, Jonathan Bernier, I like that deal, 2-year deal. And he is going to be the 1B to the 1A, Mackenzie Blackwood, Mac Black. I'm feeling good about this. The pressure is off of Mac Black, but in some ways it's on because you've got somebody competing for some playing time. And, you got a veteran that, was behind Jonathan Quick during the Stanley Cup Finals, won a cup, so I think all these moves are smart. Like I said earlier, that you had to overpay for Dougie Hamilton, but my goodness, that 2011 draft, Devils selected Adam Larson at number 4. Dougie Hamilton goes at number 9 to the Boston Bruins. Never in a million years would I think that Dougie Hamilton would be a New Jersey Devil. He's a big, big defenseman. And hitting is one of the biggest parts of the game I like. I actually like block shots. When you have
block shots are more important than people give it credit
tall guys in front of Mackenzie Blackwood, I mean, it's going to be, if they play their positions right, it's going to be impossible to get a shot on goal, at least from in the slot. And I hope they play physical in front of Mackenzie Blackwood. Otherwise they're not using their bodies, they're not using their size. But I really think
I think they're going to be blocking shots. I think they're going to be doing all those small things.
Yeah, they have to. They have to. I mean, they're physically gifted.
Especially Graves. I think Graves is going to take a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
But
and this defense has depth now.
Well, this defense has depth because we got Jaros now, who's also a giant. I mean, Sam, we literally went from no size on defense where Subban at like 6'1" was the tallest guy, to now 6'6" Dougie Hamilton, was it 6'4" Ryan Graves, I believe, another 6'6" guy in Jaros, a 6'7" guy, possibly 6'8", and Kevin Ball, and they're all big. Like, they're not like, Shakir Mukhamadullin, where he's skinny and tall. Like, these are gigantic players, and Fitzgerald clearly has a type. He likes them big. He likes them.
Hey, where's the meat?
He likes beef. I'm a fan of the turkey hot dog, but Tom Fitzgerald came over to my house. He said, "Give me the beef."
Yeah,
I don't want that mixture hot dog from Oscar Mayer. I want all beef ballparks, baby. Well, that's what he's got on defense. He's got.
Do you know what they remind me of? This defense. Do you know what they remind me of? You ever go down to the Jersey Shore and you cut across the Pine Barrens and you see these tall, big trees,
like sequoias.
Yeah, and you're driving and you're like on this like road. I forgot what is it. Is it 72, 35? I don't even remember what the road is. All I know is I take some secret route to the Jersey Shore to avoid the Garden State Parkway. I go west and then I go back east to LBI, and I'm on this road and I'm looking around. There's nothing around. It's like a scene out of The Sopranos where they bury the bodies. This is what this defense reminds me of. Big,
they're going to bury bodies. They are going to bury bodies.
Yeah, and they're going to put him in the Ryan graveyard. It's going to be his territory. That blue line is
also known
awesome.
as the Hudson River.
Yes. And you know what's also apparent as well? And I hope Jaros can use his cannon, but these guys can shoot. These guys can shoot the puck. And I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Well, that's the thing.
It's a big upgrade, literally and figuratively. Big upgrade.
Here's the thing,
Fitz.
Is that you don't want to get size for size sake. Like, say they made the Jaros trade thinking he was going to be like Mirko Mueller, where he's going to come in and take a spot and like be a top 4 guy. They didn't make those kinds of moves. They went big for big. They went for like Ryan Graves is legitimately a top 4 defenseman. He can also play on the third line if somebody outplays him. Like, say Kevin Ball comes in and plays really well, or Vukovic, or Riley Walsh. Riley Walsh doesn't really have a spot because he's right-handed. I believe he's right-handed. So he probably has to spend another year in the AHL. But, say somebody comes in on the left side, plays really well, you don't have to play Graves on the second line. You can play him on the third line. Or like Siegenthaler. Like, say Siegenthaler plays out of his skates. For the first time, and this is the only downside, and it's not a downside. It's not a downside at all. But this is the only thing that's negative that I could say, is that you have no spots now. You filled everything. Unless you want to, like, if Kevin Ball earns himself a spot, you now have to put Siegenthaler in the owner's box. And that's a story. It's a small story. Like, who cares? Like, that's better. They have a player playing well. I like Siegenthaler for what he is. He's a defensive defenseman who could stop the other team. He's got a decent poke check. He can hit a little bit. He's a guy who gets in the way. And the Devils, I don't know if you noticed, but nobody was getting in the way last year, especially on the PK. Think about it. Like, we had to put Damon Severson and PK Subban. Not only were they both penalty killers, but they were on the same unit. Sam, we had to put Severson and Subban on the same unit on the penalty.
Let's back up a little bit. Let's back up about this defense.
I'm going all over the place today.
I'm always all over the place, so I'm used to it. I'm always all over the place. But let's back up a little bit about this defense. Mm-hmm. And I want to know YouTube Live, Twitter Live, Facebook Live. You know our social media accounts at Let's Go Devils Pod on Twitter, at Let's Go Devils Podcast on Twitch and Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, the Let's Go Devils channel. You can just Google it and type it in. Let's Go Devils podcast. I will tell you about this defense. They are going to wear down opposing forwards. And I think the third period will be our period, the Devils' period. These guys are big. I mean, PK Subban is on the smaller side of this defense right now. And he's actually a pretty big guy, 6'1", 6'2". Think about how you're going to wear down the opposing forwards. And I hope they play physical. And one thing that I will tell you, Nick Villano, Pucks and Pitchforks editor-in-chief, I think it's a happy problem that you have all the spots filled. You know why? Because there was something that we've seen the last few seasons. Our guys don't stay healthy. You got to have depth. We can't just rely on one defenseman to do all the dirty work. What happens if even Dougie Hamilton's out for a week or two with injuries? You have a good supply of defense, making Kevin Ball outside looking in. And then let's not forget some of these guys looking to make the roster from the AHL team, the Utica Devils, the new Utica Devils. I think this is a good thing. And what I love about it is it takes the heat and pressure off of Severson and PK Subban. And I think they will be better hockey players, better defensemen because of it. It changes everything. Graves and Hamilton changes everything. And it also changes the mindset of free agents or prospective players that have these no movement clauses. Hey, look what they're doing in New Jersey. Hey, first thing I'm going to look at is, hey, how much cap space they have. Pretty decent amount. Are they well funded?
It's $22 million still.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Even with the $9 million we just paid Dougie Hamilton, we have $22 million in cap space.
Yeah, it's amazing. This is, hey, you know what? If there's anything that Harris and Blitzer are known for is knowing how to manage money. In this case, with the help of Ray Shuro and Tom Fitzgerald over the years, I think they got this one pretty good. I mean, hey, as fans, we had to suffer. But I'll tell you what, we're not suffering right now. I feel good right now. I feel a lot better right now than when Jack Hughes was drafted and we had the PK Subban trade and the Gusev signing, and we were all going crazy that maybe Taylor Hall will have another MVP season coming off an injury. Now, things didn't work out. Personnel have left. Ray Shuro's out. Tommy Fitz comes in as an interim GM. Slowly handles the situation. Dealt with the COVID stoppage. Dealt with the COVID outbreak. Under unusual circumstances. I think Tom Fitzgerald deserves an extension right now.
He just got one.
Did he? Oh, maybe I missed the memo.
He said it, I think, in the expansion draft call. So it wasn't,
okay.
He's just gonna he's been signed to do GM duties for the future. You know how they are with those extensions. Like, they're very coy about it.
Yeah. You know me during conference calls. I'm usually snoozing or I'm multitasking. I'm doing something else, right? So sorry I missed that one.
In your glasses. No, I mean it was very low key and under the radar. I doubt a lot of people saw it. So I'm curious what you think of the Will Butcher move. Do you think they had to do this, or do you think? Let me direct the question real quick.
Yep.
Do you think they did it because to make more cap space, or did they do it to not have a player sulking on the bench all year?
I think it's a little bit of both. What I'm curious about is the future considerations, what that means.
It's probably nothing. Probably a cap dump, like pure cap dump.
Come on,
We've
Nick.
seen future
We're-
considerations.
We're entertainers. I was just trying to make a Jack Eichel reference. I'm just kidding. That's not what it is. But I'm just joking. But
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's something that we learned about Fitzy. Although I was kind of hard on him about wanting the 32nd overall pick this year. I think he really cares about the players. I think he really has built up relationships with these players. And I think he probably wants to see Will Butcher succeed. But right now, this is not going to help his career, even though the money's good, to be in New Jersey right now. He's just not part of the plan. Yeah. He served a purpose.
Basically what they did is they didn't want to buy him out. So they spent a 5th-round pick to save next year's cap space.
Which I think is a smart move. I think it's a smart move.
They could have put him in the AHL and just sent him to Siberia or whatever. And I feel bad because I like Will Butcher. I think he's a good player. I think this just isn't the right system for him. I think John Hines wanted him to be a defensive defenseman, which made absolutely no sense. He needs to be on the power play. And
John Hines never made sense to me. John Hines just never made sense to me. I mean, I like the guy. He seems like he knows what he's doing. But at the same time, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you changing up the lines? Don't you want them to have chemistry? Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely was not a chemistry guy. Different lines every single night. And Lindy Ruff did a little bit of that, but it's a different lineup now. It's a younger lineup. So I think they're always going to be out there with, excuse my language, piss and vinegar running through their veins. So, and that's just kind of how they're going to play. And that's kind of how his strategy kind of works anyway. So it works a little bit better. I wasn't a fan of it still. I want them to build chemistry. But he did. He eventually let them build chemistry. The Jack Hughes, Igor Sarangovic, Yanni Kuokkanen line played for the last month and a half? 2 months of the season? So he did eventually find lines that he liked, let them play together, and then Nico always seemed to play with Bratt and Zaka. So he was giving them time. He was allowing them to build. And it seems like I'm looking at the Facebook comments, and there's a lot of people wondering if they're going to get that top 6 forward. There's so much smoke around Vladimir Tarasenko, Sam. And I think about it. The summer of Shero, where he got Jack Hughes, Wayne Simmons, Nikita Gusev, and PK Subban. Think about the differences between Subban, Gusev, Hughes, and Simmons to Ryan Graves, Dougie Hamilton. They got to get a star forward. You don't hold on to $22 million in cap space and trade 3 of it away for nothing. So there's something. There's something in the works. I don't know who else it is. The only 2 I know that are out there are Eichel and Tarasenko, and then you got Saad and Tatar on free agency. So I don't know. There's been surprises before, but I feel like a lot of the players that are going to get traded got traded, right? Is there anybody?
Yeah.
Maybe like Pacioretty on Vegas. Maybe they trade him, but I don't see how he's the right player. Unless Vegas wants to really keep moving. Vegas is kind of – people are looking at Vegas funny. Did you notice that? Mm-hmm. They traded Nate Schmidt last year. They traded Fleury in a very awful way this year. They trade their stars. They traded for Tatar, and then they traded him right away, the next year, because they didn't like the way he was playing. They don't care. They'll just trade you away. What if they trade somebody like Mark Stone? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But there's something here. I would they got Riley Smith. I've always liked Riley Smith. I think he's a really good player, but he's more of a middle 6 guy, while Tarasenko at his peak is a top 6 guy, and he's only cost $2 million more. And he's got an extra year left. You got 2 years with Tarasenko. I'm just trying to think of Who? Oh, who's the other guy? But I don't think they do it. But you know who the other guy is?
Who's that?
Philip Forsberg on Nashville.
You think?
Trading for Forsberg. Oh, I think he can be had. I just don't know if John Hines will let them trade with the Devils.
Well, I'm looking at YouTube Live. Christopher writes, "Hi, guys. If you have a chance, I would be curious to hear your thoughts if we are afraid that the back half of Dougie's contract is going to be tough, or do we think his contract will age okay?"
I think it will age literally okay. Just okay. I think he's going to be dominant the first 3 years. Then he's going to turn 31. And then the last 4 years, he's going to be for 2 years, he's going to be a very good defenseman. For 2 years, he's going to be good. He's not going to be worth $9 million in years 6 and 7, but he's going to be worth $9 million in the first 3 years. He's going to be worth probably $11 million in the first 3 years, 7 to 8 in years 4 through 6. And then, I could see a pretty precipitous drop-off in his 34-year-old season. But you're paying for now. And you get a discount now. And you get a discount for the next 3 years. And the difference between Subban and Dougie Hamilton is that Subban was coming off a bad injury. And you were hoping that it was a one-time thing. Dougie Hamilton's not coming off anything. He had that terrible leg injury, but he came back. And he showed us that he was fine. And it was a broken leg. Those heal.
I will say this about the back half of Dougie Hamilton's contract. By the time he gets to the back half, there's a gentleman named Luke Hughes who will be trying to break the lineup and with playing time. I would love to have a veteran Dougie Hamilton there when Luke Hughes comes up, when he's done with college. And he makes the team at some point, a couple years down the road, because there would be continuity there. There is credibility with having a Dougie Hamilton on the team. Like I said, you're going to have to overpay, but there are intangibles to this contract that I kind of like. PK Subban, $9 million he's making last year of his contract. Yeah, it's kind of steep. But right now, look, they have the space. Seems like this team is on the up and up. And I'm not too afraid of it. I think it'll be okay. Yeah. I mean, unless something unforeseen happens where, Dougie Hamilton resembles Alexander Daig, I think it's okay.
Is that the Senators' number 1 overall pick that they took over?
Yeah.
Who'd they take him over? Pronger, right? They took him over Pronger.
Something like that.
And he went to the draft and he said, nobody remembers number 2, and number 2 was Chris Pronger, and he was Alexander Daig or whatever. They remember number 2. Here's the thing. So Subban's off the books next year, if not before. I don't want Fitzgerald to sell him I don't want him to pay to sell him. You don't have to pay to sell Subban. You have plenty of cap space. He's still a player who can provide what's the word I'm looking for? He can provide I don't want to say a service, but he can provide a value. And that value is on the power play. The value is in his shot. The value is in just the big home run play. He makes a lot of mistakes. So guess where I want PK Subban? Playing 14 minutes a night. He's never going to get hurt. He's going to make big plays. He's going to limit those mistakes. And if you put him on a pair with Siegenthaler or Graves, I'm thinking about the pairs, Sam. And I don't know how to do this. who do I put with Dougie? Do I put Ty Smith with Dougie automatically, or do I try to see the Smith and Severson had some unreal chemistry to start the year? Remember that? They looked like Severson looked like a legit top defenseman for a little while. So,
well, I mean, before COVID outbreak, I think Severson was on top of his game. I think afterwards, his season started to fall apart. After they resumed.
Yeah.
So
he looks terrible at times, and his numbers showed he was pretty bad.
Yeah. So I think right now, let's enjoy the day. It was a big day, a very big day, because it shows me, and I'm not, I was very harsh on the ownership. Anybody that's listening to this podcast, I was very harsh, not because I was impatient, but there was no semblance of a winning mindset. There was no semblance of they're taking this seriously in a way of winning. Right now, they just committed a lot of dollars on the top free agent defenseman in the league just now. They did a redo on the backup goaltender, the 1A, 1B tandem. And now they have cap space. They can weaponize or they can go out and get a sniper via trade, via free agency, whatever. And not many teams can say that. And plus, the guy that's got to be the happiest right now is Jack Hughes. His team just got that much better. That much better. And Severson and PK Subban and Ty Smith and their new team, the new guys on the blue line, it takes all the pressure off of them. And, with Damon Severson, he doesn't have to be the guy now. He can continue to, skate well, poke check and, and play well defensively. He doesn't have to be the guy to be shooting. Right now, you got Dougie Hamilton to take the burden. PK Subban, didn't we say this over and over and over again last season? If PK can just simplify and just not do too much and just be PK, he'll look like a Norris winner. Less is more.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. He would look like a legitimate, because he has issues that didn't exist earlier, and people bring up the East and West.
Look like.
East and West.
I said look like. I didn't say he was.
Yeah, I know. Okay? I know what you meant, but you know how people are. They're going to take your words out of context. I didn't want them to do that. He's going to look like a legitimate defenseman. Is what you mean? He's going to look like somebody who can crush it on every shift.
And Ty Smith, if he continues his progress, if he doesn't have a sophomore slump. And again, we're not relying on Ty Smith right now on that blue line. It's Dougie Hamilton's number one on that blue line right now on the depth chart. He's number one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you don't pay $9 million to a guy to be number two, even if you have a really good rookie. I mean, look at who else got $9 million. It's Cale Makar. He's the number one guy in Colorado. Seth Jones is the number one guy in Chicago. And we talked about this a little bit on the Breaking News podcast earlier today about playoffs and kind of where the Devils are in terms of just, what they look like on paper. I think you put the Penguins up there because they deserve it at this point because we keep trying to bury them.
Sidney Crosby's there, as long as Crosby is there, they're going to be legitimate. Not saying they're automatic, but they'll be legitimate.
I mean, you can't. What have they ever missed the playoffs in the past 10 years? So I have to keep putting them there. Washington, you keep putting there, and the Islanders, you keep putting there. Carolina got worse. Philly got, I think, a lot worse. They added Ryan Ellis. They lost Shane Gostisbehere. They added Martin Jones. They lost Brian Elliott. They added Rasmus Ristolainen. I think that's worse than Philip Myers, who they had there. They lost Nolan Patrick. I think they got worse. It was bottom line. Columbus clearly got worse. They're terrible. And then you got the Rangers. So it's going to be us. It's going to be the Rangers. It's going to be Carolina. It's going to be, let's see, on the other side you got Tampa, Boston, Florida, Toronto, Montreal. So we're probably going to be fighting with Montreal, who has no Shea Weber, Florida, who I don't know. I don't know how I feel about some of their moves this year. New York, Carolina. So there's going to be there's a 5-team race. I'm probably forgetting somebody in the Atlantic, but there's going to be a 5-team race for 2 spots, which is going to be stressful. We're going to be watching games with stress, though, Sam. We're going to be watching games that matter. I don't know how, if we're not watching games that matter, they need to fire the coach. Because that's the only thing that can hold this team back.
Yeah.
The forwards, if we go into the next year with $22 million in cap space, I'll be surprised. They do need to add a top 6 forward. They do. But they can do that pretty easily if they just sign Brandon Saad or Thomas Tatar. They could do that by trading for. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. I'd be curious to trade for Jonathan Drouin. So from Montreal, he had not a good season. He had to leave. But if you give him a change of scenery, do you think Omar wants to know if I think Boquist will have a chance to make the NHL roster? Sure. I thought he was going to make the NHL roster and stay there last year. Something happened, but I told Sam this, giving every COVID situation a break. So I'm not making any master judgments on Boquist. But the fact that they're making all these goals, Steve Tardis thinks we need 240 goals per year. I mean, we don't need them if we stop them from going in our net. And we get, if Hughes makes a jump again, which I think he will, because we forget that when COVID hit Hughes, he lost all of his muscle mass, and he was still trying to move through people, which took away a lot of his scoring chances. And he hit the post 6 times, I think. I think he led the league, or he was second in the league in posts. So, Bergevin apparently will be ready for Drew in the training camp. Johnny Gaudreau is an interesting name, too. He's an interesting name. And then somebody else brought up, it's left me. There's another player that we've been tied to Timo Meier, the Swiss player from San Jose. We've already made a trade with San Jose this year, Nick Merkley for Christian Jaros. And I do think that they were trying to work on something bigger, and it just fell through, and they both like these 2 players. There's a lot going on, Sam. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm about to get our guest, Josh, on. But, I'm looking at the YouTube live, Yamasito Gomez says the Saad and Tarasenko seems possible to Tar. They need to keep the momentum going. 1 for each, I mean. But, 2 wingers. Give a sniper for Nico and Jack. You know what? I'll tell you what. Right now, I'm extremely happy. I've had Ranger fans texting me, ripping on me, how bad that Dougie Hamilton contract is. And it's you're just jealous. You're just jealous.
Yeah,
that
they're
your
acting
team,
like this is Kevin Shattenkirk, who was never even the best defenseman on his team, getting a monster contract.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So, Nick, why don't you talk to social media? Because we've got a boatload of people right now on all of our platforms. But why don't you talk to them while I get our next guest?
Yeah, well, now they threw me off because they said we just signed a guy named Brian Flynn. If that's true that we signed him, he's a European guy. He's a center wing. He's a little older. He used to play in the NHL. He went over to the Swiss League for a couple of years. He did pretty well in the Swiss League, 33 and 34 points in 50 games. I don't know. He used to play for the Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens. He's a former. Actually, he wasn't drafted. Yeah, that's who Brian Flynn is. I don't know if we actually did sign him, but that'd be an interesting move to bring in a guy from overseas. Tarasenko, right wing, the best fit. Tardis. Sorry, I'm saying your name wrong, Steve. I wrote an article saying I didn't think Tarasenko made sense, but after getting Dougie Hamilton, maybe I don't want to spend a lot on Tarasenko. I'm not giving them Holtz. I'm not giving them Mercer. I'm not giving them Madulin. I'm not giving them Walsh. I'm not giving them any of our top 10, really. I'm not giving Tyce Thompson. They want Nikita Hotuk and a third-round pick. Sure. But Tarasenko's coming off 2 major shoulder injuries, and we've seen shoulders really act up. And apparently they messed up the surgery. So you probably have to bring him here and clean him up. Omar says Kulikov signs with the Wild. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Dmitry Kulikov, former Devil, signs with the Wild. It's not a bad signing for the Wild. Wild in a weird way, though. For them to make up all that cap space this year by cutting Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, and then to do it to bring in Kulikov, that'd be weird. Speaking of Wild, Zach Parise hasn't signed yet. I know we don't. It's impossible, right? It's impossible. There's no way they're bringing in Zach Parise. He hasn't signed yet. If this was that easy, Lou would have his guy. Lou doesn't have his guy. Zach Parise's not signed yet. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just throwing it out there. He takes forever to make a decision. Remember July 4th, 2012.
And these people, they would trade a lot for Tarasenko. I wouldn't. I'm not giving up Tyce Thompson for Tarasenko. I'm not giving up Holtz or Mercer.
No.
Or
let me tell
Walsh.
you something. We talked about a lot of things on this podcast today.
Yep.
But it's only as good as your farm system. You don't trade, you don't mortgage the future. And I think Tom Fitzgerald was very, very adamant about that. That, hey, we're going to spend some money, but we're not going to mortgage the future. You got to keep that pipeline flowing. Otherwise, you're going to have years of suffering like New Jersey Devils fans have since, the last 2012 run. So anyway, we have a special guest. He's from Smaht Scouting. He's the director of scouting. His name is Josh Tessler. You can find him on Twitter at Josh Tessler _ Josh, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you?
Good. And and thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, Josh, it's been a big day. We got a pretty big audience right now because everybody's excited. So I have to ask. I know you're the draft guy, and I really want to get in the draft. But do you have any initial thoughts on Dougie Hamilton?
Yeah, I very, very much loved Dougie Hamilton, and and I remember, this was years ago, but I remember him. I remember him vividly on the Canada World Juniors teams, and I loved his play, sorry, and I'm sorry.
No, you're
and
fine.
I loved
Take your time.
development, and growth over, over like the last few years. And and he's grown, into, a extremely talented, top four defenseman.
And we don't say sorry here, Josh. There's no sorries on the Let's Go Devils podcast. You do you. We do us. No sorry. We don't apologize. We signed Dougie Hamilton. But I do want to get into the draft because, we're a couple days apart from the draft, but the Devils made some weird decisions, some interesting decisions, and then they made the most obvious decision of the draft. They drafted Luke Hughes at number 4. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because it was the obvious pick. It was a pick that we were all making. I asked 8 of my writers to pick the fourth round pick, and they all pick Luke Hughes. So let me ask you, did you think it was the right pick, or did you like somebody else?
Yeah, I definitely think that it was the right pick. I very much love Luke Hughes. His skating ability. It was easily one of the best skaters in this draft class. His transitional play, is great too. So there's, so there is a lot to like about him. He's, and I just love his puck movement, and yeah, and I definitely think it's, and I definitely think it was the right pick for them. And, with the Devils, when they took Jack Hughes, you have to keep in mind that, if you really, really love a player and you get very, very familiar with their family and with, and with their character, at that point, in the future, teams are very much looking for bloodlines, and those type of for prospects. And so, I just feel like, because they've been working with Jack, for the last 2 years now, that they just gained a really, really big affinity for, his character and his family. And, based on what the Devils saw on the ice, they felt that it was the right pick for them.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like you said, they got to know the family. That's a very good point. And that's something that I didn't necessarily think of, is that the families matter in these hockey cultures, and getting to know the family, and it's almost like getting to a relationship, like you got to get to know the family, and, if you like the family, you stick around, and the Devils stuck around with Luke Hughes. And speaking of family, and speaking of bloodlines, you brought up that word bloodlines. And bloodlines is a word that I feel like I heard a lot at the draft. And the Devils jumped on a bloodline, and they took Corey Stillman with this 29th overall pick. Technically, there was the 28th pick, but we're going to count this weird Arizona forfeited pick. So looking at Stillman, it seemed like an odd pick. I wasn't really sure why they made that pick, where they made that pick. The one reason, the only thing that came to mind is they also picked Muka Modulin last year when they didn't have a second-round pick, and maybe they fell in love with this kid and didn't have a second-round pick again. But what was your thoughts? What were your initial thoughts and your initial grade on that Corey Stillman pick?
So in terms of Chase, and Corey is his dad, by the way. So for Chase, I definitely wouldn't take him there. And I'm pretty sure on our board we had him at, I'm pretty sure we had him in the 90s. I definitely do see the second round upside for him, though. It's just that, there was definitely a lot lacking to his game at times for me. So his playmaking and his shot are just not as consistent as I would want it to be. And and that's why I feel like the offensive upside is just a tad lower for him. But with that being said, he's definitely great on the forecheck. He does a good job at acceleration through consistent crossovers. I do see at times that he needs to become a stronger puck handler. So there are puck security concerns, but these are all workable. and I very, very much like his physical game. But, with that being said, when it comes to drafting, I want to go for the highest offensive upside guys as possible. And so, for Chase, I just felt that the offensive upside just wasn't there. But with that being said, I also like guys like Colton Dock, guys that play a very, very similar type of game. So I could definitely see myself taking him in the second round. But at 29, there were guys that I would have preferred to take. So
who did you like better?
But based on my list, I can't remember the exact pick that Ville Koivunen was taken at, but he is someone that I would take higher. Hold on, I'm just bringing up the first round.
No, take your time. Did you like Stan Koven? Because Stan Koven was the guy I wanted.
Yes, and I very, very much like Logan too. I think at the end of the day, teams were just a little bit concerned with skating, and unfortunately the age-old problem, with height. So, so we constantly see, players that are a tad shorter in height fall a little bit in the draft, and unfortunately that was the case with Logan. But I very much love his high tempo type of game, and I absolutely would have taken Logan there. And as I look into the beginning of the second round, there are guys like Olin Zellweger too, that I definitely would have taken there. Scott Morrow that the Carolina Hurricanes took at 40. So and then there's Francesco Pinelli as well as Atu Ratu. There's, I could have, I had, 7 or 8, players there that, that I definitely would have taken higher. But with that being said, there's always a chance that, Chase gives you second line production. I'm just, I'm just not sold on that. With Chase, I see a third line grinder, with offensive,
I don't like third line grinders in the first round.
Yeah. He's just a third line type of player. So, that's how I would put it then.
So I don't want to be negative the whole time because people seem to like some of the players the Devils drafted. Who did you like? Who was your favorite player the Devils drafted?
So, for me, in terms of the Devils, I very, very much like the Samu Salmonen pick. I very, very much like him from an offensive perspective, and he gives you that, good blend of playmaking and shot capabilities, and he's got great edge work down low, but I would like to see, his skating improve. I very much like the Zakhar Bardakov pick in terms of the value. I don't, I don't think it's a bad gamble, as a 7th round pick. He's an overager, power forward. If he hits, he hits. So, and I also like Topi Spielan too. Who is definitely a solid defensive first defenseman, and and Luke Hughes too. So, I like the Devils draft. I probably wouldn't put it in like my top 5 favorite drafts, but it is, it is up there. And as I said, I definitely feel like they got, really good value with the Samu Salmonen pick. So, I can't wait to see, how he develops over time.
Yeah, and I people, that's the pick, that the Solomon pick is the one that really seems to jump out at people, that people really liked. So I didn't like it at first because I didn't know who he was, but it was hard to do a lot of scouting on this draft, and a lot of people who are a lot smarter than me say they really like it. So now I like it because that's how it works. I follow the smart people like you, Josh, who know what they're talking about when it comes to these prospects. I try to at least have a handle on it, but there's a lot of players, and I got a lot of Devil stuff to talk about. So, I'm excited about Luke Hughes. If they missed on the Chase Stillman, and apparently it's Chase, that's my fault. I got him confused with his father. That's how little I was not happy. I don't even know his name. I need to stop doing that, though. I need to get people's names right. But yeah, so Josh, why don't you promote what you got going on at the Smaht Scouting, and let people know where they can find, tell them what's going to be going on for the season when they're not looking at draft stuff, and tell them what they could see, in terms of your content.
Yeah, sure. So at this point, my team is working on a Hlinka Gretzky primer as the tournament kicks off next week. And at the tournament, there will be a lot of 2022 draft picks. Draft prospects. So it will definitely be a big tournament to kick off the year, and and after that point, we will do our preliminary draft rankings and reports and rankings throughout the year. And you can follow us at Smaht Scouting. And my Twitter handle is at Josh Tessler. And then there's an underscore after the R. And
we got the Twitter account right under his face right now. Well, Josh, I want to thank you for coming on and spending some time with us. It's been a crazy day for Devils fans, but we needed to talk about the draft. We needed to know what was going on, so I appreciate you giving us some time tonight. Thanks so much.
Hey guys, and thank you so much for having me on.
We'll talk soon. I don't know if Sam is there, but I'll just keep talking. We got Dougie Hamilton. we got Dougie Hamilton. We got Jonathan Bernier today. We got we traded Will Butcher. It's been one of the biggest days in New Jersey Devils history, and let me text Sam. Let me see where he went. So, yeah, I want to talk about Dougie Hamilton real quick before we go. Oh, Sam, where are you? Sam, help me. Sam, I need help. Okay, well that's good that ended. Anyway, that was how I was feeling. That beeping right there is how I was feeling all day when they wouldn't announce the darn Dougie Hamilton signing, and the Devils' Twitter account was messing with us, and they sent tweets that I didn't like. It made me feel like that they were in flux. And there was terms that it was a grind. I don't like the word grind, Sam. I don't want to grind. I want them to just sign me Dougie.
Yeah, I was already planning the disaster scenario for the podcast because of what happened to the New York Mets and that guy Rocker, the guy that they drafted, and now suddenly that's up in the air. You know, you think something's a done deal, and then suddenly things fall apart. I was already preparing for the worst. Not that I'm a negative fan. And then you hear the rumors that he's taking a private jet to New Jersey. And then we joked around.
My worst case scenario is going to sign with the Rangers. I was deathly afraid he was going to the Rangers. Deathly afraid.
Yeah, well, you know.
They got this cap space for Jack Eichel, but what if it wasn't for Jack Eichel? What if it was to ruin our dreams and to get freaking Dougie Hamilton? Like they ruined our dreams last year when they took Braden Schneider. We got the jet. Now, you know what? The owners, maybe Dougie Hamilton, and maybe Dougie Hamilton could help us with the jet. Because he's got $63 million coming his way. So, like, if he could just give us, like, half of that to buy this jet so we could follow him around playing with the Devils, that would just be wonderful.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little disheveled. I turned away for 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, and you ended the interview.
It's all good. We made it work. You see, like when you're good at this, Sam, you turn it around. See that beeping? I transitioned that beeping into talking about that's how I felt about Dougie Hamilton. That is a professional broadcaster right there. Me.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to hear this.
And the echo on top of it?
Yeah.
So they're not announcing the number, which I think is funny. I wonder what number he's going to get.
So they didn't announce that. That's just sources saying the $9 million.
No. His actual jersey number.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
of course not.
$9 million
because this is how the Devils work now. This is not lose Devils. Everything's got to be. It's show business. They're probably sewing his jersey right now. They're probably getting all their marketing stuff right now. Because I'll tell you the reason why. I think they're going to make a killing off of a Dougie Hamilton jersey in New Jersey. Is it Michael Rubin? Is that the silent partner?
Fanatics guy?
Yeah, Fanatics guy, silent partner of the New Jersey Devils and 76ers. I bet you he's got the sweatshop going right now. Sewing those jerseys.
I can go. Fanatics is in Tampa. It's headquartered in Tampa. So I can just mosey my way over to Fanatics, be like, Michael, I need that Dougie jersey.
I thought they were in Jacksonville.
No, they're here. I think it's Fanatics.
Maybe they have two offices. You never know. They love Florida.
They have a giant office building here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the headquarters, but it's like,
yeah,
it's a giant office building. I think it's huge. But anyway, Sam, we got to wrap it up because I got to go to bed. I've been awake.
Me too.
I've been big awake all day. Are we expecting anything from your fingers this week?
You're talking about a secret guest?
No, I'm talking about the writing.
Oh, yeah.
For the pucks and pitchfork.
I have an idea. I'm not going to say it. I was actually going to surprise you in your inbox when I'm like, post it, Nick, get it out there now. Yeah, I'm actually I already thought of an article up in my head. It'll be in pucksandpitchforks.com. Nick Villano
We got a couple pieces up there already.
Editor-in-chief. Yeah. So, but I haven't been reading pucksandpitchforks.com, not because I'm not a big fan.
That's upsetting.
It's because this is what happens as a writer. Because there's so much good writing, like Vinny's got taken care of, Matt Judio, David Leibowitz, the entire crew. They've got everything. And it's like anytime I start reading, I'm like, they took my subject. I got to figure something out. But now I got a better subject, but I'm not going to reveal it.
Sam, that's my job. I will take multiple voices on the same subject, and I will change the title and move it around so it's a completely different article.
Right now I'm at the intern stage of pucksandpitchforks.com. Go read it. Vinny Parisi.
I do want to thank the fans real quick.
Yep,
because we broke a record this month. 417,000 views already in July.
Really? Wow.
Are we going to hit that 500,000?
Oh,
Are we
you
going
betcha.
to hit that 500,000? Line in my pockets, Sam. Line in my pockets. But no, I really do want to thank, we've been, and my guys have been putting out really good content. Mike Lucci had his greatest draft picks of all time pieces. He has 3 pieces on that. That's still up there. Look at the greatest first round picks. Well, it's not even great. He ranked every first round pick, so some of them suck. But those pieces did very well. Vinny Parisi's back with a vengeance. He's coming in hard and fast, and just you wait. Just Sam, if they sign Zach Parise, this kid's gonna cry into his keyboard, and I'm gonna love it. I honestly got tears.
You know what?
Tears thinking about good Devils hockey.
If that happens, I'll even build the show template live, and get Vinny on. He made his debut on the Woo Report yesterday. I would get him on. I mean, I'll already build the template already. So the instant that news hits, Vinny is on air.
He's aware that there is an article and there is I told him that I would take care of the news one. So he just gets to do a passion project for Zach Parise, and then we're doing a podcast. The second that thing is done, he already knows. We got a plan. The plan is in place, Sam.
I would also like to thank the fans. It means a lot. We hit 150,000 lifetime downloads.
Whoa!
And we're rising. Remember the hashtag Now We Rise? We're rising. Even this afternoon, the breaking news podcast we did concurrently on 4 platforms was about 150 live concurrent viewers watching us as we were breaking the Dougie Hamilton news. That's a lot of people. For a small little podcast like ours. And I want to thank you, Steve Tardas, Mike Rossi, Jersey Mike, Joey, the Facebook Live, John Michael, Kevin Weeks, Tony P, NJ is now Beefy, Yamacito Gomez, Damian Rasputin, and the YouTube Live and, and Twitter and all that. And, all the guests that we've had. The podcast is growing. I think the 2021-2022 season, the Let's Go Devils podcast, State of the Fan address, pucksandpitchforks.com. We are the platform to go to. Reactionary, different ideas. We can even argue. We can even screw up on air and don't even care about it. And we're going to have live events, especially at Todd's Lounge 973 outside Center Prudential Center, October 15th. Be careful. We are planning the biggest event known to mankind. I don't know any other NHL podcast out there that does this kind of crap that we do. We do it because we're fun. Because we are hashtag we are fun.
It's going to be a huge season. I mean, with the amount of people, with the amount, I'm trying to think of the words. With the love that I've received from the site over the past couple of months after the season ended, it's been, we broke the record last month, Sam, and then went 100,000 more than the record. Like we were hitting a consistent 250 a month. I was like, oh, we're doing well, $250,000.
Yeah,
and I was like, you know what? Let me shoot for 3 million this year. 3 million views, and we only did.
Amazing.
We had a massive year last year with 2.3 million views. I was like, screw it, let's go for it. Let's go for the gold.
Yeah,
and we're on pace, Sam. We're on pace.
Yeah, and 5,000 Twitter followers. Let's Go Devils Pod at Let's Go Devils Pod cleared 1,100.
Bring me the Twitter followers. $5,000. Yo, I need that check mark. Where's that blue check mark? Twitter?
I know.
Jack, give me that blue.
And subscribe. Set the alerts on YouTube Live because we passed over 500 subscribers. I remember when we only had 3, and 2 of them were my parents. Anyway, Nick, it was definitely a pleasure. We will break the breaking news. Keep it here. Set your alerts. Thank you, Nick. Go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Until next time, let's go Devils.